If you have ever landed in a foreign country, stepped into a taxi, and felt a moment of panic when the car pulled out on what looked like the wrong side of the road, you are not alone. One of the strangest differences between nations is not language, food, or money. It is which side of the road people drive on. In some countries, traffic keeps right. In others, it keeps left. This split is not random. It is the result of ancient habits, medieval warfare, revolutions, empires, and the rise of modern technology. What seems like a simple traffic rule is actually a story stretching back more than 2,000 years. To understand why the world drives the way it does today, we have to begin long before cars ever existed. The ancient roots of left-side travel. The tradition of keeping to one side of the road is far older than modern highways. In ancient societies, long before asphalt and traffic lights, people traveled on foot, on horseback, or in animal-drawn carts. Even then, road position mattered for safety. Archaeological evidence suggests that in the Roman Empire, traffic commonly kept to the left. Stone roads near old Roman quarries show wheel ruts that are deeper on the left side, indicating heavier traffic in that direction. This was not accidental. Most people throughout history have been right-handed. When riders passed one another on narrow roads, traveling on the left allowed them to keep their sword arm closer to oncoming strangers. In a world where ambush and banditry were real dangers, this gave travelers a defensive advantage. It also made greetings easier since the dominant hand was free. These practical habits became traditions. As Roman influence spread across Europe, so did left-side travel. What began as a matter of survival slowly turned into social convention. Medieval Europe and the codification of the left. During the Middle Ages, left-side travel remained common across much of Europe. Knights, messengers, and traders all benefited from keeping their sword hand toward potential threats. Roads were narrow and poorly maintained, making close encounters unavoidable. By the 1300s, this habit had become so established that authorities began to formalize it. One of the earliest recorded traffic rules came in 1300, when Pope Boniface VIII instructed pilgrims traveling to Rome to keep to the left. Although religious in nature, the order reinforced a pattern that already existed across much of the continent. As horses gave way to carriages, the logic still applied. Drivers sat high and often handled reins with their right hand. Passing on the left reduced the risk of wheels and whips colliding. For centuries, left-side travel was the European norm. But history was about to interfere. How the French Revolution changed the road. The major global shift toward right-side driving did not begin with engineers. It began with revolutionaries. Before the French Revolution, social class influenced road behavior. Aristocrats traditionally traveled on the left, while commoners kept right to avoid obstructing nobility. The road itself reflected hierarchy. After the Revolution of 1789, anything associated with the aristocracy became politically dangerous. Left-side travel, once a symbol of privilege, was rebranded as a relic of the old order. Revolutionary leaders encouraged people to move to the right as a sign of equality and modernity. This symbolic change became permanent under Napoleon Bonaparte. As his armies swept across Europe, they imposed right-side driving in conquered territories. Belgium, the Netherlands, Switzerland, and parts of Germany adopted the new rule. Meanwhile, Napoleon's main enemy, Britain, kept left. The political divide of Europe was quietly embedded into road systems, creating a split that still exists today. America and the rise of right-side driving. Across the Atlantic, the United States reinforced the shift to the right for practical, not political, reasons. In early America, large freight wagons were pulled by teams of horses. Drivers did not sit inside the wagon, but perched on the left rear horse, controlling the team with their right hand. From this position, it made sense to keep to the right side of the road to better judge distances when passing other wagons. This practice spread naturally across the expanding road network. By the early 1900s, most U.S. states had written right-side driving into law. Then came Henry Ford. The Model T placed the steering wheel on the left, optimized for right-side traffic. As American cars flooded global markets, many countries aligned their traffic rules with vehicle design. Technology, not tradition, now drove policy. Why Britain refused to change. While much of the world shifted right, Britain remained committed to the left. The United Kingdom had already formalized left-side travel in 1835 through the Highway Act, long before cars dominated the roads. By then, changing sides would have meant rewriting infrastructure, retraining drivers, and replacing vehicles. More importantly, Britain's vast empire carried its traffic system around the globe. India, Australia, South Africa, and many Southeast Asian nations inherited left-side driving as part of their colonial infrastructure. Even after independence, switching sides would have been costly and dangerous. Over time, left-side driving became part of national identity, a quiet reminder of Britain's separate historical path from continental Europe. The global driving map today. Today, roughly 2/3 of the world drives on the right, while about 1/3 drives on the left. Left-side driving remains dominant in former British territories, but there are notable exceptions. Japan is the most famous outlier. It was never colonized by Britain, yet it drives on the left. The reason lies in its samurai culture. Like European knights, Japanese warriors wore swords on their left side, making left-side travel safer. In the 19th century, when Japan built its first railways, British engineers led the project. The rail system adopted left-side operation, and the road network followed. Tradition and technology reinforced each other when countries switched sides. Changing the side of the road is one of the most complex policy shifts a nation can attempt. Sweden provides the best example. Until 1967, it drove on the left, even though all neighboring countries drove on the right. Cross-border accidents became increasingly common. On September 3, 1967, known as H-Day, Sweden switched overnight. Traffic stopped briefly nationwide. At a precise time, drivers carefully moved to the opposite side. Road signs, intersections, and public education campaigns had been prepared for years. Surprisingly, accidents initially decreased as drivers became more cautious. Other countries, including Ghana and Nigeria, also switched to improve regional compatibility and trade efficiency. These changes show that road rules are not permanent, but they are extremely difficult to reverse. How driving side shapes car design. The side of the road determines where the steering wheel sits, how headlights are angled, and how intersections are designed. These differences are deeply embedded in national infrastructure. Drivers traveling abroad often struggle with instinctive habits. Roundabouts, lane changes, and pedestrian crossings suddenly feel reversed. This is why tourists face higher accident risks in countries with opposite driving systems. Modern navigation systems help, but the brain still fights years of muscle memory. Could the world ever standardize? In theory, a single global driving standard would simplify travel and manufacturing. In reality, the cost would be enormous. Entire road networks, vehicle fleets, and public habits would need to change. No modern nation is willing to absorb that disruption. However, autonomous vehicles may quietly reduce the importance of this divide. Self-driving systems can adapt instantly to local rules, making left and right less relevant for travelers. Technology may succeed where politics cannot. More than a traffic rule, the side of the road you drive on is not just a technical detail. It is a living artifact of human history. Ancient soldiers, medieval knights, revolutionaries, emperors, engineers, and car makers all left their fingerprints on modern highways. Every time a driver turns the wheel, they are unknowingly following decisions made centuries ago. What looks like a simple rule is actually a map of global history, written not in books, but in asphalt. And that is what makes it fascinating. Even the side of the road you drive on is shaped by centuries of history, power, and human behavior. And there are many more hidden stories like this all around us. If you enjoyed this deep dive and want more fascinating explanations behind how our world really works, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel.